Asian shares fell on Tuesday as investors turned to safe haven assets and U.S. futures opened lower after North Korea fired a missile. Japan's Nikkei 225 dropped 0.81% after a North Korean missile flew over the country early on Tuesday. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said in a statement that the launch was reckless and unprecedented. Across the Korean Strait, the Kospi tumbled 1.15% as investors processed the latest developments on the peninsula. The broader Kosdaq traded lower by 0.41%. Stocks, including blue chips, across sectors sold off. Samsung Electronics was down 1.3%, LG Electronics tumbled 2.88% and Hyundai Motor declined 0.69%. Meanwhile, defense stocks surged on the news, with Vitex soaring 14.1%. The Korean won also fell almost 1% against the dollar following the launch. Down under, the S&P ASX 200 declined 0.94%, with the financials and consumer discretionary sub-indexes leading losses. The risk-off sentiment also appeared to weigh on Greater China markets. The Hang Seng Index fell 0.77%. On the mainland, the Shanghai Composite shed 0.08% and the Shenzhen Composite was off by 0.031%. Geopolitical tensions returned to the fore after North Korea launched a ballistic missile that flew over Japan on Tuesday. The missile headed in the direction of the Tohoku region before falling in the sea, Japan's NHK said. The last time a projectile from the Hermit State flew over Japan was 2009, according to Reuters. North Korea's firing of more missiles, this time over Japan, could be the trigger for another round of global risk-off, warned ING Asia head of research Rob Carnell in a note. Demand for traditional safe haven assets rose following the latest provocation from North Korea, with demand for gold and the Japanese yen picking up in the aftermath of the missile launch. Spot gold prices rose to their highest in almost 10 months on safe haven demand. The yellow metal fetched as high as $1,322.33 an ounce before paring some gains to last trade at $1,317.83. Meanwhile, the Japanese currency strengthened to trade as high as 108.32 yen to the dollar, its strongest levels in about 4 months, compared to levels around the 108.8 handle seen overnight. The yen later gave up some of those gains to trade at 108.67 yen to the dollar at 9:32 a.m. HK/SIN. The yen could have more scope to gain against the dollar. BK Asset Management Managing Director of FX Strategy Kathy Lean said in an early morning note. If Trump responds with more than harsh words for North Korea, we could see dollar/yen drop as low as 108, wrote Lean. Meanwhile, Dow Jones Industrial Average futures opened more than 100 points lower following the North Korea missile news. Global markets were shaken earlier this month after President Donald Trump cautioned that the North would be met with fire and fury if it continued to make threats against the U.S. North Korea responded by saying it was considering a strike on Guam, a U.S. territory, although it later somewhat backed down. Elsewhere, energy markets continued to process the impact of Tropical Storm Harvey, a downgraded former hurricane. U.S. gasoline futures were up 1.15% at $1.7320 a gallon at 9:42 a.m. HK/SIN. Gasoline futures had settled up around 3% the previous session after refineries in the Houston area were shut down. Also on the energy front, Brent crude futures rose 0.29% to trade at $52.04 a barrel and U.S. futures tacked on 0.47% to trade at $46.79. U.S. crude had settled more than 2% lower overnight on concerns that refinery closures would affect crude demand. Stateside, oil refinery stocks rose as investors digested the aftermath of Harvey, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average edging down 0.02%, or 5.27 points, to close at 21,808.4. In currencies, the dollar index, which tracks the greenback against a basket of currencies, was mostly flat at 92.230 at 9:33 a.m. HK/SIN. The dollar slipped below the 93 handle last week following a central banking meeting at Jackson Hole. In corporate news, Western Digital said it would foot about 150 billion yen, $1.37 billion, of an approximately 2 trillion yen bid for Toshiba's memory unit, Nikkei Asian Review reported. Western Digital is part of a consortium that also includes Innovation Network Core of Japan. Investors also kept an eye on earnings releases in Australia and Hong Kong, with companies such as Shanghai Fosun Pharma and Postal Savings Bank of China expected to report. CNBC's Christine Wang contributed to this report.